Hey everyone, I usually start with this badass intro, introducing my guest, and she is a badass, and I love Christine to death, but I'm going to bring her on right now. There you are, Christine.
Hey.
In lieu of everything that's going on, we actually just had a frank discussion of, do we do the show? Because our world, our nation's in turmoil, and why this show is not going to be about that. We want to address it and say, I'm almost in tears that this is the country that I'm living in. Whatever side that you're on, I believe everyone has a right to choose their party. I'm right in the middle. I'm going to put that out there. I don't say I'm a Republican or a Democrat. It's a weird thing. I'm just like, I'm a Mary. But we just want to address that. And I am all teary, like what's going on. And
yes,
it's hard, right?
It's crazy. It's hard to even know, like, it's very hard to even know what to say in a nonpartisan way, but that's what we're here. We're not.
I think it's just hard to say, like, how do you, where are the words? What the hell?
Yeah.
Like, what do you say about what's going on? And Christine, you're amazing.
It's a moment. People who follow me kind of know where I stand, but I
know where you stand. And
I'm at Mary's party, and so I'm not going to poop on Mary's party here and respect her whole audience. And I do respect her whole audience, and I love you guys and anyone who's joining us today. Thank you for taking a break from the doom scrolling and
And maybe we're here, Christine, to serve the audience so they can take a break from that, because watching it is not going to fix anything.
That's my feeling, and that's why I'm here. Besides that, I said that I would be. I feel like yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's a moment. Taking a moment, because the fact is, life doesn't stop. While this stuff is going on. And again, it comes down to something that we've all been dealing with for the past whoever knows how long, of balancing remaining well-informed and remaining sane.
Right. And watching it over and over is not going to make it stop. Like, I'm in Arizona, you're in New York, I'm the East Coast. So I think, Christine, if you're good and if our audience still wants to hear from us, we're going to go ahead with the show. And, if you were going to tune in and you couldn't, hopefully you're going to watch the replay and get some tips. So I'm just going to start with my intro, even though, like, you're right here. This is awesome. My intro was amazing. So let's start with some fun and let's get the energy going.
Go for it. And I just shared it on all the
2020. Hello, New Year. This new year, many of us are rethinking our brand because of last year. A lot of people have new services, have new products, or I even know people that have ditched their old business and started a new one. And so the question is, do I rebrand? And so my intro was like, live from the East Coast. It's Christine Gritmon. I was going to do a whole, a whole little show take. But you are a branding expert. You love the color red. You're a coffee connoisseur. And I call you a champion for small businesses.
Yes.
And you're one of my go-to experts for branding. So
thanks.
Thank you for honoring your commitment during chaos and coming on the show. And for those of you, I didn't even introduce myself. Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Fane Brandt with the LinkedIn Bakery, Chief Connection Officer. At the LinkedIn Bakery, we serve up bite-sized tips so you don't get overwhelmed. And this is not the normal intro or anything. We are just trying to make it through the day. Christine, this is the first show of 2021. I'm honored you're my first guest. This is the first show. We're going to go ahead and record this and get, just get the information out there about rebranding. We do have a few people watching, and Melissa Allman said, I appreciate your honesty. I was wondering what you were going to do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that. It's hard, Melissa. What do you do? Do I go bury my head in the sand as an ostrich? Do I just not show up? What if someone was expecting to see Christine and I and take those notes and those tips? So Mark said, Y'all stay calm and press on. We will persevere. Thank you. Yes, we will. Definitely. So thank you to those that have tuned in. So Christine is a branding expert and just a cool, awesome, fantabulous person.
Thank you.
I love you like this much. You can't see my arms, but this much.
I can feel them, girl.
Okay, good. So Christine's going to be talking about 3 things because you know this is bite-sized tips. So you don't invent your brand, you uncover it. So I love that. The things that you feel that you need to hide in your business in order to be considered professional, you actually don't. And Christine, this is something that I suffered from at the beginning, and I'm sure other people, right? So that's going to be an interesting discussion. And then the last thing that we're going to cover today is your brand isn't about your current job or your current business. It's about you, and it should be transferable and able to carry you through any shifts or pivots. And that's so important because I also work with job seekers as a career coach, and I'm always like, let's discover your personal brand. Yes. And it's not you're an IT, you know, VP of an IT department. That's not your personal brand. That's the job you do. So I know we're going to dive into that. But before we get started on that, I just want to let everyone know that Christine is someone who empowers small businesses and solopreneurs. She's spoken on stages worldwide, and you have your own show. You're on podcasts, live streams, Twitter chats, blog posts. You're all over the place. And you and I first met at Social Media Marketing World.
Oh, I'm so glad. That means we got to see each other in 2020, which is fantastic. We got to see each other more than once in 2020, which was great.
We did. And so that is something that I miss is the conferences and the networking. Oh, yeah. But I'm thankful for the relationships that I did create and nurture and sustain through 2020. So, whoa, what a day.
Well, you know, it kind of fits because to your point, 2020 was, I mean, we all know how 2020 was. And one thing I've seen a lot of today is we're all in the same storm. We're not all in the same boat. So people have certainly had different experiences of 2020, just as people are experiencing the turmoil of literally right now differently. People are experiencing all of this very differently. But what it comes down to is that it feels a little cheap to tie it to business, but it's true. When it comes down to it, a lot of people who got through, who kind of made it through and who are weathering these storms, a lot of it had to do with having something they could grab onto. And in a lot of cases, that actually was something like a personal brand. Because in order to have an effective personal brand, it involves first figuring out what your brand values are. What do you stand for? What's your why? Why are you doing this? What things are you loud about? What things are you quiet about? What things do you touch? What things don't you touch? All of that is part of your personal brand. It's very essential to figure out before you put anything out there, is kind of knowing where those barriers are. Where are those guardrails in terms of what you will and won't veer into? And for a lot of people, it actually kind of did shift a bit this year between obviously the pandemic and its impact on businesses being open or closed, but there's also things like the racial turmoil in the United States, the political turmoil in the United States. All of that had a lot of people reassessing how far out those guardrails were going to go. And people maybe waded into conversations and issues and content and things that they might not have otherwise before. And you know, for some people, that worked. For some people, it didn't. But I think what it comes down to is, in general, you have to look at your own values and your own where you want to stand, and also figure out what your audience needs to some degree. What do they need to hear from you? And what do they really not need to hear from you? And if they're still looking, if you have an actually engaged audience who is actually paying attention, that means you got to be consistent with it also. And Absolutely. I think a lot of companies saw that this year. A lot of companies kind of jumped on certain bandwagons and then didn't back it up. A lot of that went on. We had a master class this year in authenticity, which is an overused buzzword. Everyone has a different definition of it. But we really did get kind of, a lot of years of education on brand authenticity condensed into a very passionate package this year. We learned a lot about the fact that your values need to go through your entire brand. Your values cannot just be on the surface of a piece of content. Your values have to go through your entire brand, because if you're lucky enough to have an engaged audience that is paying attention, they're going to notice. We also learned that especially as we were all isolated from real people and spent more time on our phones and on our computers, our engagements with brands got a lot more personal, a lot faster. It was already, the trends were already going that way with the rise of what's called dark social, things that aren't out in public for everyone to see, things like chatbot conversations, direct messaging, text message marketing, getting into the DMs. All of that was already on the upswing, and this year it went that much further. So since our conversations with brands have been becoming more intimate, we are now holding them to the standards of, this is something in my life that I am standing by. This is something in my life that I am supporting. So guess what? Now those brands who were like, oh, yay, we have an engaged audience.
They were jumping on the bandwagon, right?
So realizing that it's kind of biting them in the butt in some cases, because they're saying, oh, people are holding us to a higher standard now. Crap.
We're either going to have to live up to it or lose our clients, our following, our engagement.
What a brand is has changed. I'm talking consumer brands. Personal brands experienced this as well, which is that what a brand is has changed. It used to be a slicker thing, and now it is going deeper as relationships with brands go deeper. And so that has been a very interesting shift that some brands are having trouble weathering, and the ones that are doing well with it, a lot of younger brands I've noticed, like newer brands that are like internet first, all of that. I feel like a lot of them have been doing really well with it, because a lot of them sort of have always existed in that environment of direct communication with your audience and things like that. So I feel like a lot of them kind of flexed a little better.
Do you feel like the younger brands have always been maybe a little more authentic, a little more vulnerable? Because I feel like that's a shift that we saw in 2020, that authenticity, call it whatever you want, authenticity, vulnerability, just being you in front of everyone and not the brand behind the wall. That's kind of what I saw in 2020. Like, let's just keep it real. And that's what people were attracted to.
Yes. And we were both at Social Media Marketing World. I believe it was 2019 when Mark Schaefer gave his closing keynote regarding, the fact that marketing has had a few key shifts in what marketing is. It used to be, you could say that this product was the best and everyone would just buy it, because of course everyone buys Ivory soap. And then it got to the point where you had to kind of, finesse it a little. And then it got to the point where people didn't want to be finessed. People stopped trusting marketing. Marketing Rebellion. That's the book title. I couldn't remember.
I have that book.
Yeah, that led to the rise of influencer marketing, all of that, because people said, I don't trust what a brand says about themselves. I trust what people say about a brand, back to that word of mouth. But now we've really, really reached a very, very sticky point of reckoning. I feel like we're absolutely, 2020 really exacerbated that and tipped us over the edge to the point where real is not a nice to have. And I think we're going to see a lot of brands fail this year.
Oh, interesting.
Based on an inability to, I feel like a lot of times, things started, there were missteps in 2020 that I think will lead to full collapses this year. I do.
Wow. Big brands? Are you talking like
big brands?
Like brands that people know.
Too. Yeah.
But name brands that people know. I really feel that an important component in branding that happened last year really is that human to human, H to H, human to human.
So important.
Connecting with a person, the one person. And then that person, it's not like spitting it up. Like, here's the brand, here's the message. Vomit marketing. I think that's what I'm going to call it.
Yes.
Vomit marketing. Ooh,
Don't communicate with the most people. Communicate with the people who are going to love the crap out of you.
Yeah. Yeah. So you talked about not like, we don't invent our brand, you uncover it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people try to create their brand. Mm-hmm. And in all honesty, I didn't really know what my brand was the first few years.
Same.
Because I was discovering where my true talents were and what path I really wanted to take. And I'm down that path now, and I can describe my brand. I think I can describe my brand. Christine, you tell me, in 4 words.
Ooh.
They're simple. This is very simple. I say it's fun and informative, casual, and conversational.
Nice. I'd add beachy in there.
Beachy. Okay, I'll take it.
The shade of blue always reminds me of a beautiful ocean and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah, the ocean, the lakes, anything to do with water. That's definitely part of who I am. I don't incorporate in my brand like Amy Iram does, right? Mm-hmm. She has the ocean method and all that.
Yeah, she's got.
You guys know my fun branding. I commissioned this to have it painted.
Yes, it's very sweet and fun and casual.
Exactly. So that's definitely part of my brand. How would you describe your brand to people? Because a lot of people know you. So tell me, what do you say your brand is?
It's enthusiastic, for sure. Enthusiastic. Whoops. Jeez. Whew. Sorry, dropping stuff. Enthusiastic, fun, approachable, supportive, vivacious.
Vivacious.
Yeah, I did an exercise in Andrew and Pete's book, Content Mavericks, which I go back to every now and then to do little exercises. And one of them involved, a bunch of words and then kind of grouping those words into kind of sort of commonalities and naming those, commonalities. And one of mine, I named Wham Pow.
Wham Pow.
I got some Wham Pow.
How do you spell that? Is that W-A-M Pow?
WHAM-POW, always with a few exclamation points.
I love exclamation points.
Yeah, and I kind of am one.
I'll give you that. You're kind of an exclamation point. I love it. Yeah, but I think probably the most important thing is to uncover your brand. As you say, don't peg yourself into someone else's brand because you see them successful. You're like, oh, I'll be like that person. I mean, and I think that most people do that at the beginning. They're figuring out their path. But I think it's important to be true to your brand. Once you unravel it, you discover it, then you need to embrace it.
Yeah,
right?
And it's interesting because, on the one hand, a lot of times taking notice and taking stock of the things that we do notice about other people that we admire or other people whose brands we really like and that resonate with us, a lot of times what we like about them are adjectives that we can embody ourselves in our own unique way. Because a lot of times what appeals to us, it appeals to us in someone else because we've got a bit of it inside ourselves. But that is very different from copying somebody else. And it's about figuring out where the line is there. Feeling a resonance and a connection to certain adjectives or descriptions or elements is very different from just, taking them whole, full on. I have kind of retro vintagey stuff going on a little bit in my look and in my photo shoots and all of that. And do I know other people who embrace that? Sure. Jenna Sword is a branding expert and she rocks that. She does the pinup looking stuff. Laura Pearman in the UK, who has done several of my photo shoots for me. She embraces that sort of vintage aesthetic, but at the same time, I'm not copying either of those women because I am embracing the elements of me that kind of go into it. I'm not wearing their exact hairdo. I'm not, copying someone else's photo shoot exactly.
It's a style that you all embrace and are drawn to.
Exactly. So pay attention to what you're drawn to and do not copy it. That just means tap into the part of you that it resonates with and let that part out, because that brings us to another thing that you pointed out. Besides the you don't invent your brand, you uncover it, you're letting it out. That also goes to what I was saying about the fact that the parts of you that you often hide to fit in are usually the parts that you need to embrace in order to stand out. I think all of us, especially, you know, we have all been younger people. I think all of us have had our little moments in middle school or whatnot, where different was the last thing on earth we wanted to be.
Right. And growing up, you didn't want to be different.
And we've also all been in the situation of being in our early careers, early on in your career before you've proven yourself to anybody. All of the advice out there is about not standing out. It's saying, you know, don't get fancy with your resume. Just make it clear, you know, and that's true. That's accurate. But, you know, and make sure that your online presence, if they Google you, they don't find anything bad. All of this is true. You don't want to stand out as inappropriate when you don't have stuff to back up your qualifications. But it's not quite the same as having no personality. Like, there are ways to balance that when you're just starting out. There's ways to sort of emphasize what makes you uniquely you and emphasize your story without displaying yourself in a way that, you know, might reflect badly on a given company or whatever. But I would say that once you have some achievements under your belt, especially, and once you're in a position where you have things that you can tout, where it's clear that you're going to be valued for what you can do, not how well you can fit in, I think that that, you know, I'm not saying be unprofessional. I just feel like
be yourself. Well, there's a difference between being unprofessional and being yourself. You know, there's certain things that I'm not going to do on a live show that are me, because it's not the right space to do that.
No.
But I feel like we always...
I'm not going to flash your audience right now, because why would I do that?
You have no Mardi Gras beads. It's not the right space.
But at the same time, I didn't go dye my hair, you know, normal brown to be on your live stream, because I was like,
what's going on with Christine if you dyed your hair normal brown?
Well, the normal brown is going to come back at some point, but the fact, and I didn't dye it until I was like 35. And I did it because I said, you know what? I'm finally at a place professionally where no one's going to not hire me because I've got a weird hair color. And that's also when I went from getting, you know, just the little hidden tattoo on my lower back to having visible tattoos. Because I said, I'm finally...
Tattoos. Wait, I have... Oh, wait. Here we go.
I didn't know you had one. Yay. And I've got...
I have 3.
Because I realized I was at a point where no one was going to not hire me because of that stuff, because I'd reached a point in my career and my accomplishments and also my career path, because I had started my own business just recently at that point. I realized I was at a point where no one was going to see those things as reflecting poorly. And it doesn't have to be visual. It doesn't mean you have to, you know, be weird. I can think of some people in our industry. Sometimes it is visual, but I can think of people in our industry who wear interesting suits, for example. They're still wearing a suit. It's not like they're going out there in like a velour tracksuit. You know, they're still wearing a suit, but the fact is they've got their own style of suit.
Well, talking about style, so someone that is it Rachel Hollis that wears tennis shoes on stage?
I'm not sure. I know a lot of people who wear tennis shoes on stage.
Right. But
she would probably wear heels.
Huh?
She would wear heels, I think.
What? No, I think that she wears tennis shoes.
Maybe. The one time I saw her speak, she made us all jump. And I was like, ugh.
Well, and there's a couple other people that do that. But as I was, you know, looking at bigger speaking gigs, right, and doing this, I was like, what is my brand? What is that going to look like on stage? And so I visualized it. Yeah. And I'm not the Jen Herman. I love Jen Herman, her heels, her dresses. Oh, that polished look. It's beautiful, right? It's not me, right? I'm a Cali girl, right? So I'm like, what is that? What is my speaker look going to be? I need to be true to myself, which is fun, informative, casual, conversational. And it's jeans, a white shirt, a blue blazer, and blue sequin Keds.
I love it.
Which Caitlin ordered for me at Social Media Marketing World because I couldn't find them. So we sat at
the awesome green ones.
Right. And I was like, that is going to be, because I was going to speak at like Startup San Diego. Like all these things were going to happen, you know? So I was like putting it all together. So I have these brand new sequined cat shoes. And like, that goes with my brand. It's casual.
I can't wait to see you on a stage in those, girl. Yeah. I think of people like that, like Brian Fanzo kind of made a promise to himself when he went into his own, you know, doing his own thing as a speaker, that he was never going to put himself into a situation again where he had to wear a suit to speak. He always has the brightly colored high tops. He's wearing a baseball hat.
And his hat. Right. And his baseball hat. So Tisha joined us. Thanks, Tisha. And she said she wears Converse. Yeah. I love it. Tisha, when you and I get together, I need to break in my Keds because I didn't get to wear them on stage. I'm going to wear my sparkly blue Ked shoes. You can wear your Converse, and we're taking a picture because she lives here in the state that I'm in now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And I love that. And that's a good point of like, you don't have to, like, some of us do wear, you know, a dress and heels on stage, and that's fine too. But the whole point is you don't have to fit into the one box. Right. And I think that that's really key. The idea of getting out of your head of having to fit in and strip away all of your personality in order to prove yourself. It's the opposite. Yeah. Prove yourself, and then you can show up with as much of your personality as you damn well please.
Look at Goldie with her green hair.
Yeah.
I mean, making right with her hat. Like I've always her with a hat, and I love it. You know, whatever that is about your brand, and that's just a physical appearance, right?
Yeah, that's just visual.
The brand is your tone and who you are and what you stand for.
It's how you show up. And sometimes the way that people brand themselves is about the type of content that they do. Mike Alton is a blogger. He has branded himself as a blogger. Everyone knows him as a blogging expert. I mean, everyone knows him now also as the Agora Pulse ambassador. Right. The fact is, you know, he branded himself with content. And there are some little things in there, like everybody who follows his content knows that he's a big Star Wars fan. But the fact is, what it really comes down to is he has branded with a content type and with a specific type of expertise. So branding does not have to be something about your physical appearance. It does not have to be something about like colors. Like when I think Mike Alton, I don't think about any of that stuff really. I mean, he likes sweater vests, but
you can brand yourself with content.
Yes. There's a couple women I follow on Instagram who really are reposting some TikTok videos and doing a lot of reels and stuff on Instagram, but they're branding with that type of content. And it's interesting because the content doesn't necessarily even have to do specifically with what they do for a living, but I notice them. And I notice them as the woman who's on TikTok, you know.
Oh, interesting.
There's one who does, Brittany Crosson, I think is her name. She's a social media
I know her.
But she does reels where she's dancing on her treadmill.
I've seen her. Yes.
Sometimes with wine and treadmills and dancing. So she's branding with content. When it comes down to it, she's branding with, hey, these are parts of my personality. These are parts of my life. She's not a personal trainer. That's not why she's on the treadmill. She does sell the wine. But, you know, she's, what?
Can I ask you a question about that? So a lot of people, right, when they're starting off, and even people that have been in business for a few years, a lot of the clients that I work with, the solopreneurs, small businesses, they don't want, or they don't think that they should show the personal side of them, right? Now, you just mentioned Brittany on a treadmill with a glass of wine, dancing, having fun, right? So she's not selling a treadmill. She's not an exercise person, right? And so what do you say when someone says, oh, well, I shouldn't show what I do. Like, I shouldn't show the fun side of me. I shouldn't show my personality. Like, I need to be right here in the box. I know what I think about that, but you're the expert, Christine. Can you talk about how much you should share and why you might want to share who you are outside of.
I will say that it varies. I do respect boundaries. You do have to put boundaries in place for yourself, your own comfort, your family's comfort. I know some people who aren't going to share certain things about their personal lives because they don't want people to know who their kids are, which makes sense. They don't want people necessarily even knowing where they live, which makes sense. They need to have their own comfort level and kind of own that and stick to it. But if you're not going to show your personal life, which is fine, you do still need to make sure that you show your humanity in other ways. Showing your humanity doesn't have to mean an Instagram story of your kid throwing a tantrum. You can show your personality just by the way you talk about things and making sure that you do occasionally speak and engage in comments, especially, and things like that in a way that doesn't feel like a pre-rehearsed sound bite. I think that you could get away with a tremendous amount of privacy and humanity if you make sure that you have the right voice, and if you make sure that you are engaging, and if you make sure you're having direct conversations with your followers instead of just broadcasting things at them. So I think it is less a matter of how much you show and more a matter of making sure that you have some of that unrehearsed, very direct feeling engagement in there. I'm still working out exactly what elements of my personal life that I show. I feel like most people probably know at this point that I have kids. I just did an Instagram story of my kid. But my mother has a little heart attack when I do things like that, and I understand it. You know, everyone has their own levels. I can think of some people who I follow, who I absolutely adore, where I feel like I know little about their personal life, but at the same time, I feel like we'd be best friends just because the way they show up.
So the way they show up and probably the content and the way they engage that.
The fact that it's personable, the fact that I don't feel like they're reading from a teleprompter every time I see them speak, the fact that not everything feels super rehearsed, and the fact that they engage back with people. And that is really, really key to me, because you can be fake if you're, you know, doing all super prepared pieces of broadcast content. But if you're also doing things that are a little realer, if you're engaging back, if you're doing live video like this with a conversation, I'm certainly not at my most articulate today, but hopefully people are getting value out of it anyway.
We're doing a great job with everything going on.
Reel. The other day, speaking of reels, the other day I did one of my very first Instagram reels. And I didn't have music because I have a business account, so I don't get music, which is annoying. But I was just like, here's some information that I feel like could be conveyed via reel. Boop, boop, you know. And then I realized after I recorded it, oh crap, I didn't put any makeup on today. And then I realized, no, that's better. Do it. And someone commented on it. Someone said, oh, so beautiful and without makeup. I'm like, yes, without makeup. Woo.
Makeup's overrated, yet we both have full faces today.
We sure do. This is how I show up for a live stream, and I have my red backdrop and all of that. But I like making sure that people never have to dig too hard to see something that's a little less polished. Right. A super long time never goes by without something unpolished coming out of me. That sounds wrong.
Without you sharing some content that's not polished and perfect.
And that's part of me. That's part of my brand. That, again, that doesn't have to be, you know, being a little bit of a mess sometimes doesn't have to be part of everyone's brand either, but it helps. I just feel like there's a level there. You have to reach a nice level. There's sort of a line there. You know, picture a graph with like a vertical regarding, you know, feeling human. Feeling human can mean all sorts of things. And I think that as long as you make sure that wherever you're, you know, boundaries are with what you share and what you do not share, and wherever your boundaries are with things being very polished or things being less so, you have to find ways, and it's even harder, I think, to find ways to show that humanity if you are, you know, being very private. But there are ways, there are absolute ways. And I think that that comes down to thinking more about your audience, thinking more about their perspective, putting yourself in their shoes, speaking to their concerns and their needs. That can be one really good way of making sure that you still are able to make that human connection and feel like a person.
I think it's all about, Melissa just said, love these pro tips. true confession, I keep stepping away briefly for the updates, and I'm just saying,
I kind of hope there aren't many updates. Like, I'm like, like.
But thank you, Melissa, for coming back, and we appreciate everyone that's tuning in. And you know, I'm sure that we'll get more views on the replay because we'll share it out. But I think it's really important in your brand to really, no matter what size brand, no matter what you're selling, I think it's important to be relatable, and you have to show the human side. So when a CEO of a bank or something, let's say, can show a funny clip, right? Or maybe he is on a Zoom call and his kid does walk in. That just keeps him human. That makes him relatable to the world because we're all going through that. Kids interrupting or pets interrupting, or for me, it's Amazon because they're here every day. I cannot lie.
Oh, same girl.
I think you have to do an intervention soon because I have so many Amazon boxes.
You just moved into a new house. Of course you're ordering stuff.
Oh, I'm buying stuff for you.
Don't know what my excuse is, but you have one. No, but Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, does this incredibly well. She's a billionaire. She is literally a billionaire, not, you know, a virtual billionaire. She's an actual, like, literal in the billions billionaire.
Right.
And she's constantly showing stuff that is pointing out that she, you know, money does not exempt her from the troubles of being a working mom right now. She has, I think, at least 4 kids, and she's showing, you know, she showed a post once where it was a picture of her at an event with 2 different shoes on. Oh, she's like,
that's hilarious.
This stuff happens, you guys.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think we all need to establish our brand, you know, let that brand, uncover that brand, own that brand, like our brand, and remember it's about us and being relatable and still have fun with it. I think we get lost in that we have to be perfect all the time.
And that's been a tipping point too. It used to be the conventional wisdom used to be at a previous stage of the marketing things that I mentioned before from Mark Schaefer, the previous set of marketing. The idea was to be fake word, aspirational. The idea was to be idealized and to make consumers want to be like you and you know, hopefully maybe your product or your service can make them like you. And the idea was you never show any hint of failing. You have to, you know, project an image of success at all times, because that used to be how it was. It used to be that people trusted those impressions.
Thank God it's not like that anymore.
Well, it has very much shifted. I think that the last gasp of that was the rise of the influencers, which we are entering a whole new era of influencers now. And again, 2020 was a big 2020 accelerated a tremendous number of changes that were already happening when it comes to branding and influence. And I think that what happened was anything showing too much perfection in 2020, everyone was just at like a riot point with that. Like, everyone was just like, toss perfection in the freaking trash in 2020. Perfection made people mad in 2020. And I think that it was welcome and overdue and will last. I think that even when things go back to
the new norm,
it's never going to go back to normal as it was.
No normal.
No, things have fundamentally shifted. And we've also realized that normal was a sham already. Normal was always a sham.
I always say perfection is overrated. There is no such thing. When I'm working with my clients, I'm like,
perfection is a fairy tale. He says that.
Yeah,
too.
I'm like, I'm not looking for perfection. Like when we're working on their summaries or whatever, like just send me a draft. Just put the words down. We'll fix it. But we're not looking for perfection because nobody truly wants to work with someone who is deemed as perfect because they're lying and hiding something. In my opinion, that's how I feel. Like nobody's perfect. Get over yourself.
Yes. All those hustle culture words when everyone's like all like solely about achievements, that used to work. Doesn't anymore. To your point, I mean, you're LinkedIn expert gal. You work with people who are specifically working on their LinkedIns to find jobs and things like that and to, you know, increase their standing. I also work with LinkedIn as part of my work as a personal brand coach and a social media strategist. And the number one thing that I tell people is that they really need to give people opportunities to latch on to something. So you were talking about how, you know, what you are is not your job title. And that is really key. You know, I'm like, no. I don't want to know your job title. I want to know, what do you do? You can put the job title in the little experience section, but beyond that, there's a million places to be like, no. What do you do? Why? What do you love about it? What's the journey that led you to this? What did you do before? Sometimes I even have them put like personal causes and things they're involved with in there, because you know what? Something could catch on with somebody. I was on a call with somebody once, and I realized that they had attended, I think they'd attended the same college as my dad, but they had attended the same high school that a longtime family friend worked at. And I mentioned that. I said, oh, by the way, I see you went to, you know, Cardinal Hayes. Did you know Father Harry Burke? He's like, of course I know Father Burke. I was like, Burke baptized me. You know, like little things like that.
It makes a connection.
Yeah. Or charities you're involved in. Charities you're involved in. Causes. All of that stuff. LinkedIn, people got, you know, introduced to it as an online resume. It's not. It is a living, breathing, you know, it can tell so many more stories about you, and you never know what's going to catch on with somebody. I've opened doors simply because I've noticed either that my alma mater was also on their LinkedIn, and they wouldn't have given me the time of day, but I was able to be like, hey, you know, and then like, oh, sure.
Well, LinkedIn was actually, it wasn't created for job seekers. If you know the history, so viewers, LinkedIn was created as a networking platform. And somehow then it became a job seeking platform, which is great. It's great for that. But if we go back to what it was created for, a networking platform, everything else will come. Sales, you know, referrals, new jobs, promotions. But if we actually were to use LinkedIn and what it was created for, which is a networking platform, and that's what I tell people, like, it's a networking platform.
Human networking, which is another thing that has changed. It used to be at a networking event. I got to tell you, if I go to a networking event and every single piece of my conversation with someone is about their job functions, I'm not really following up with that person.
You're not going to remember that person either, except that it was a bad conversation. The person that comes in and is like, hey, have you ever been to the Grand Canyon? I was thinking of going. And you're like, no, but, you know, I've heard, you know, to have a real authentic conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's horrible to say, so what do you do? I mean, it's not a terrible thing to talk about that if you're at a business networking event, because my goodness, you're at a business networking event, but it's got to go further than that. I think of an event I was at last year, a local one, and this woman said that she worked for this beautiful historic house. We have a bunch of beautiful historic homes there, and this one is not open to the public, but it is open for like photo shoots, and they're starting to get into events. And did I say, oh, I can help you with your social media? You know, I didn't jump to that. I said, oh my God, I geek out over old pretty houses. In my former job as a journalist, I used to write about old pretty houses, and my old house has its own Instagram. She's like, oh my God, really? And we took out our phones. I was geeking out over the Instagram of the historic home that she works at. She was geeking out over some of the beautiful architectural details of my house, which is from 1897. It's not fancy, but, you know, so we just kind of bonded over this love of pretty old houses. And, you know, and I remember that conversation, and so does she, because it got beyond what do you do for a living, and more towards something that was a mutual interest, and we were able to connect on a very different level. And we both remember the conversation.
Well, we're going to be wrapping up because I do want to try to keep this to, you know, my 35 minutes.
Oh, God. Sorry. I thought it was an hour.
No. Well, you know, it's 35 to 45 minutes. I don't actually put a time on it anymore because I feel that it should be as long as it needs to be or as short as it needs to be.
What was the third point that I know we had?
Your brand isn't about your current job. It should be transferable. And so we actually covered all 3 points, and that's
to make sure we're giving the people what they came for.
Yeah, being on task, and there will be a replay, and we'll shoot this out to everyone because it is a different day here.
It's so different. I hope that anyone who's seeing me for the first time on this episode make sure to look me up and find live streams on a day where I wasn't super distracted.
No, you did a great job, Christine, and I'm distracted too. And so is our audience, and that's okay because this is real. right? This isn't rehearsed. This isn't pre-recorded. This is going on. It's live. So, Christine, I do want people to be able to find you and learn more about you. I know that you're a big Twitter fan. I know that you love Twitter.
And Melissa, I had resisted that.
Okay, I'm just going to put this on. I needed your optimism. Well, you know what? If we serve one person today.
Whoops, this way.
High five, Christine. High five.
High five. Other side, girl.
Oh, wait. Wait, that way. I suck at that. The direction thing. So if we brighten one person's day and gave them hope, it was worth every second. So thank you, Melissa, for coming back. And we do hope that you had some fun watching us, maybe got some tips out of this. Christine, so I know you're very active on Twitter and Instagram, and you're on LinkedIn. Where do you want people, though, to connect with you? Your website? Give a shout out. Share all of that good stuff.
I'm in all the places, and I'm the only person with my name, you guys. So if you look up Christine Gritmon, it's going to be me. But yeah, so I do a lot of Twitter now. I resisted Twitter for a long time. I've been on it, but I was kind of like, eh. And then I embraced it full on last year, and it's given me so much back. So Twitter is a great place to find me. I'm C Gritmon on Twitter. So first initial, last name. Same with Instagram. I'm C Gritmon. LinkedIn, I'm Christine Gritmon, and I'm also Christine Gritmon Inc. So I have a company page as well. And I have my website, gritmon.com. I'm on Facebook, Christine Gritmon Inc. I'm on YouTube, Christine Gritmon Inc. I'm on
kind of similar, where if you Google Christine Gritmon, you'll come up, and I'm myself, my company is Mary Fane Brandt. So if you Google Mary Fane Brandt, I'll come up on everything. And I went with my name for that specific reason after we shifted in 2017. Yeah, it just makes it so much easier.
It does. I'm the only one there is. And I had to share my maiden name. So there are other people with my maiden name, but thankfully I've been the only Christine Gritmon around for 12 years. So
sweet. Okay. Well, thanks, Christine, so much for having for being on the show. I am too. I'm glad that we didn't bail, and I'm glad that we addressed the elephant in the room of coming on a live show in the midst of chaos.
I mean, technically, when you think about it, that's what we did for all of 2022.
We showed up live. You're right. We showed up in the midst of chaos. You're absolutely right. Well, hopefully other people will show up in the midst of chaos and try to brighten someone's day.
Instead of some people will go away in the midst of chaos. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay. So instead of serving the masses, I hope that everyone goes out there and serves one person. That's really all it takes, in my humble opinion. Don't serve the masses. Serve the people that are listening. Whether it's 5, 10, or even 50, serve those people in your network. Connect with them. Make a real connection this year in 2021. I'm going to challenge, you know what? I love challenging people. So I'm going to challenge everyone, because I love LinkedIn. I would love everyone to go write just one recommendation for someone. Normally I'd say more, but you know what? If you just started the new year and you wrote one recommendation for someone, I know that it'll come back to you in tenfold, and you'll probably make that person's day. So let's all go out there, write a testimonial, a recommendation, record a video, do it up on LinkedIn to help build their brand on LinkedIn. Talk about how awesome they are, what they bring to the table, and you don't even have had to work with that person. It could just be that you follow their content and they're amazing and you've gotten great tips from them. It doesn't always have to be someone that you hired or someone that hired you. So just remember that, you guys. So Christine, let's write recommendations. We're going to go on LinkedIn, and everyone write one recommendation. And then you know what? Go ahead and tag us on LinkedIn and say, okay, challenge accepted. I'd love to see that and start a great trend for the beginning of the year.
Love that. Putting positivity into this crazy world.
Oh, Wendy said, love the pay it forward challenge. Let's do it. Wendy. Okay, so go on LinkedIn and say challenge accepted and tag Christine and myself, and let's get this ball rolling. Let's get some recommendations, rock star recommendations, as I like to call them, over on LinkedIn. Let's brighten some people's day. So I love this. Thank you all for joining us. Melissa said she was served today. Yay. I love it. Okay, folks, we're signing off. I'm Mary Fane Brandt with a LinkedIn Bakery, and did I do it right? Christine Christine Gritmon. Wait, that way. I'll get it one day, Christine. Okay, I need to have a GIF made. Ooh. Okay. Love you guys. Take care, and we will see you. My next show is January 20th. I'll be putting some stuff out on that. January is all about branding because everybody keeps asking you about that. Lots of questions. It's not my expertise, so we have another branding guest coming on, Amber, on January 20th. So stay tuned. I'll have some info on that. Take care.